Hey guys, welcome back to the next episode of The Letter, and I believe this is the 13th episode. So we just started Ash's chapter, and before I was kind of doing 2 episodes per chapter, but at this point they've become sort of weirdly spaced out, so I'm just gonna go for like 45 minutes to an hour-ish. That's about how long these episodes have been, and let's get started! For now, I can't laze around. Gotta attend to things that matter more. Professor Clark first, deliver the bad news, then that issue with BRC and Isabella. Maybe I'll also drop by Zach's, check in on him, hear what he has to say. He has also read that damn letter. I might as well, while I'm here, playing a paranormal detective, or was it supernatural? I can't remember. Whatever, it wouldn't hurt anyone if I tried to get to the bottom of this. If nothing comes out of this, good. Everyone can shut up about stupid curses, and we can finally get back on track with our lives. On to more important stuff. If there is something...
Are you two done?
There's a moment of confusion when I don't see her familiar ponytail about, only to find her standing behind the door to her apartment seconds later. Isabella holds it open, though only slightly, as if to hide from anyone who might happen to pass by. This early, and on a lazy weekend, I doubt anyone would. But from the gap and what little light there is behind her, I can make out the appearance of someone who has just clearly gotten off from bed. Hair in complete disarray, eyes still heavy with sleep, and a small pout on her lips. She hasn't even gotten out of her pajamas. I look away long before my sense of decorum kicks in. We might be friends, I'll even dare say we've grown closer over the years, but that doesn't extend beyond the bounds of propriety. Okay. Christ, even Rebecca never greets early visitors in her sleep clothes. But maybe it's our fault why she's up this early. Still, heat makes a slow crawl up my neck. One that I quickly downplay with a solid cough. Is that like a thing in the UK, or am I just, like, do I just know nothing about bounds? Because I walk around in my PJs in front of people I barely know all the time.
Isabella, you're up early.
Lame.
No, I'm not. I'm usually up at this hour. You're the one that usually sucks at getting up early.
Says the person who looks like she's just fallen out of bed.
Instead of the usual quip, she simply averts her gaze to some point beside her, and although it only flashes briefly across her face, an expression of hurt flickers in her eyes. It disappears the second she turns her attention back to me, but that moment has sent a worried twinge in my stomach. I've seen it on her plenty of times before, just never in a manner that unsettles. It feels, I don't know, off this time? I didn't say anything wrong, did I?
Hey, are you...
Anyway, was that Becca with you? You both sound like Mama and Papa when they fight. You're awfully loud. If we get another memo from the landlady, I'm asking the guard to ban you from ever entering this place.
Me? Becca's the one almost shouting.
Yeah, well, she lives here. You don't. You have no excuse. You're the suspicious-looking person.
Thanks. Glad at least one person appreciates how I pretty up this place.
Don't flatter yourself. This place would be so much better without having to see your face every few days.
She follows it up with another pout. What a ruffled appearance, particularly how puffy her eyes are, I noticed just now, takes away from the intimidating effect she's trying to show. Really, right now, she just looks more like an angry puppy. I might have laughed had it not given me another nagging sense that something is definitely wrong with her. What? Has she been crying earlier? That is worrying. She rarely does that. The only time it happened, the one time I've ever seen her genuinely tear up over something, I think it was after Devlin Court, the night at the bridge. I want to ask. She seems determined to keep it to herself, though.
Belle, did something...
About yesterday, Ash. The things we talked about. Do you think we can take a look at it today?
We? I never said you're coming with me. Don't worry, I didn't forget about it. You'll be the first to know if I find anything.
No, I want to go with you. I'll be ready in a few. This won't take long.
Isabella, you really don't have to. I can handle it on my own. You'll just...
I won't get in the way, I promise. Besides, maybe I can help. You know, if there are files you want to check.
I don't like what she's implying. It's true LPD is having a hard time with this, but taking Isabella with me, it's out of the question. Under normal circumstances.
You're the one who's going to get in trouble if you do that.
You said it yourself. You need information. And I can help you get that. And it's not like it matters anymore. I just don't want to stand around doing nothing today.
There it is again. The slight shift in her eyes, the mild crease forming between her eyebrows, and the mild slump in her shoulders while she crosses her arms tightly around herself. Like she's shielding herself from whatever painful thing there is out here. I have plenty of reasons why I shouldn't let her tag along. First and foremost, she's a civilian. Second, I have no concrete plan of action, yet. I'm going into this blind. No matter how I look at it, it's simply better for her to just wait so she won't get dragged into what might be one of my failures. Her assumptions might be a dead end for all we know. But seeing that expression on her, hearing her speak those words out loud in a desperate, almost pleading tone, I can't bring myself to say no. So I give in, because right there I see myself in her. The person who doesn't want to stay idle, who doesn't want to think of the problems haunting him.
All right, 5 minutes.
What? You're timing me?
Well, I can't wait forever. I'm a very busy guy. 4 minutes and 45 seconds, Isabella.
I hate you so much.
4 minutes and 30 seconds, 29, 28. I'd hurry if I were you.
Ugh, you're awful. I hope you never get a girlfriend.
She slams the door right after, although my chuckles, the mirth and the lightness in it, linger. With her, those have always come easy somehow, even as its echoes fade and only the ghost of a smile remains.
It's not like I'm looking for anyone else.
I want to tell her. It's not because I can't. I won't. I'm the one who has chosen not to until I fixed myself, until I found myself underneath all that guilt and those lies I've been telling all these years. Because no matter how heavy the weight of these feelings are, I am not yet worthy of them, of her. Until then, little words and gestures are the only things I can offer. Minor stuff such as digging deeper into this thing with BRC in order to ease her worries. I'm not even sure if this will give us anything. Unlike with the firm case, which I already have proper leads on, I'm just going by her word on this. Speaking of the Luxburn firm case, I still have to inform the professor. The apprehension's there for sure. I've made a lot of promises to the man, and I would have preferred to tell him in person, not over the phone. But it's better for him to hear it from me, rather than from a stranger. The railings offer steady support while I wait for him to answer. I'd like to think I can do this without losing my nerve. My grip on the bars surely tightens, though, once the call connects.
Ashton. Not running today, Professor?
He's usually at the park on late Saturday mornings, as long as it isn't raining cats and dogs. Keeps him young and healthy, he says, and he's certainly fit for a man of his age with a sedentary job.
Oh, no, not today.
He's definitely at the usual place, though. Cheers and laughter, likely from children and families, filter through the receiver. I tend to avoid the park precisely because of this. No use reminding myself of the could-haves when it's already over. Mom's doing well with her career, Dad's also fine the last time I visited. Although neither remarried, they're both content with their lives as it is. I'm probably the only one still caught up with it, hence my aversion. But all in all, it's still a pleasant sight to see, if you're the kind who takes joy in such sights like Professor Clark does.
Just thought I'd enjoy the nice weather before it takes a turn for the norm again. And to what do I owe the pleasure?
The guy certainly seems happy right now, in any case. I almost don't want to break the news to him. But it's better to get this off quick as long as he doesn't shoot the messenger. He's not the type. However, long-held resentment can change a person, even someone as mild-mannered as the professor.
I was
He's
hoping
going
to talk to you about the case.
I suppose I'm just a downer today. As soon as I say those words, he pauses, and the lightness in his voice is gone in an instant. Every time we talked about this in the past, he does that. He's probably trying to gauge the situation based on the tone of my voice. Perhaps it's a good thing I'm delivering the news through the phone. Who knows what I'll see in my face and mannerisms? The art of keen observation, I learned it from the man. He probably already has an idea what this might be about from my manner of speaking alone.
You aren't in trouble, are you?
For a second, I hesitate, looking at the dirt beneath my shoes. But I manage, eventually. After a long, ragged draw of breath, I pick up where I've left off, though still fumbling with my words.
Well, I'm in a bit of trouble, if you can call it that.
Ashton.
He only assumes that tone when there's a reprimand at its heels.
But I'm not in danger or anything.
You've said that same excuse a million times before, Detective Inspector. That exhaustive rasp in your voice tells a different story.
It's nothing like what you're thinking. Don't worry. I was taken off the Luxborn firm case.
I expect anger, frustration, maybe even disappointment, but all he gives me is a small sigh of relief.
That's so. Well, at least you aren't in danger. Liz wouldn't be too happy if she heard you right now.
Liz. Aunt Liz, she insisted I call her, his late wife. Sweet-tempered woman by so many standards. They were never blessed with kids and contented herself with simply managing their bakery. But she's the closest I had to a mom in the few years I had known her, the professor, too. In the absence of my own parents in my life, the two filled the ache their divorce left in me.
Believe me, you'd get an earful. You don't want to show up on her doorstep looking like you haven't slept a wink either.
How many years has it been since? 9? 10? I can still remember it vividly. 2 men, primly dressed, briefcases in hand, and a stern look on each of their faces. They were already frequent visitors to the bakery for a few months, something about the lot being a prime property in downtown Luxburn. I think they were hoping to settle a deal with them, but neither of the couple gave in to their demands. Why should they? That quaint little shop was a dream for them. Aunt Liz sent me home early that night after a fruitless wait for the professor. The next morning, news of a bakery razed to the ground had spread across the whole city. One casualty. A few weeks later, the property was sold to Wright Enterprise. A fucking hotel now stands in its place. Of course, an investigation was launched after the incident. The name Luke Wright was briefly at the center of it, but with the lack of any evidence, the case ultimately went cold. The professor hides it well. However, I can tell that he hates that man to this day. He might even blame Luke Wright for every tragedy that happens in the city. He has never blamed me, though, when I'm as equally responsible. I knew something was off the moment those men stepped inside the shop. I could have saved her that night. I could have prevented anything from happening to her, called for help or whatever. I didn't. So it continues to eat at me until today, the guilt. The Luxburn firm case would have been our chance of reopening that old case, where we could prove Luke Wright of his crimes. Instead, we're back to square one. Yet all he has for me are words of comfort, to think he can still be this concerned about me, after my carelessness, after I've broken another promise a second time. People never cease to amaze me.
You might think that you have failed as an officer. Or maybe you think that you have failed me. And you know more than anyone. I would love to see that man taken down. If anyone deserves to be tried in high court, it's him. But I'm glad nothing's happened to you while you were working on this. That's what's most important. I'd hate to get news like that again.
Suddenly he stops. I imagine a thoughtful look flashing in his eyes as he thumbs the wedding band on his ring finger before he continues. Another habit. He has never removed it since that day, has never thought once to remarry, even when he managed to continue with his life and return to some semblance of normalcy. It's his way of honoring her, I suppose, when he couldn't bring to justice the man responsible for his loss. Some people are just hard to forget.
It's not like another death. Yours or even his. Will bring back my wife.
Silence falls between us afterwards. I don't quite know what to say after that, really. Should I apologize? Show some sympathy? Going into this, I should have thought of something other than just breaking the news to him. As it is, it seems the only thing we can do is feel sorry for each other's misfortunes.
I apologize, too, for putting you up to this.
On another occasion, under different circumstances, I might have accepted that, but...
You didn't have to. But you've already done more than any officer who has investigated this. So don't worry about this, old man. I know your department's people all have their hands full recently, too. What with the upsetting news we've been getting as of late. Deaths almost every day. I'm not entirely sure if that has anything to do with the other. It seems too big even for someone like him. But if this is that man's doing...
Professor, please.
Maybe things around me hadn't started going beyond my control. The letter, the mansion, the supposed curse behind those. I'd still be quick to blame it all on the bastard, too. But as much as I want to keep holding him responsible for it, to add another to his list of sins, it might not be the case. Agreeing will only cut a deeper wound on the professor. I don't want him to keep clinging to this resentment for much longer. He's already gone through so many years of it. This kind of anger, it's the sort that blinds people. Despite his reassurances, the bitterness still seeps into every syllable he utters. It's one thing for me to act like this. It's painful to watch someone I've considered a second father to go down this path.
Please don't apologize. It's really all right. I can try to get it back on Monday when I meet with the chief. No promises, but if not, I'll make sure to keep an ear out for any news. Chief said he's passing it on to a senior officer. I should be able to catch a few tidbits every once in a while. But I swear I won't just give up on this. I'll do everything in my power to get Aunt Liz's case reopened for you.
Promises. Again, a bad habit at this point. I wish I could do more for him. All this time I prided myself for being the one to always know. Because suddenly, aside from Wright and the murders plaguing the city, I have ghosts and curses to worry about. Things that are completely out of my depth. Professor Clark right in some way. That things would be so much easier if we just blamed Luke Wright for all of this. At least finding evidence would be a breeze, and I'd be all too happy to put him in a place where he belongs. Although if he was, in any way, also complicit to what's happening, legalities have my hands tied. But maybe that's my fault. I might have missed the ticket to closing the case once and for all last night. If only I'd done a better job during the party. But then, the commotion. There's Hannah Wright and Rebecca distracting me from my purpose, too. I'd include that gate crasher as well, even though it's only for a moment. So many things have gone wrong last night that...
This isn't a prank! I saw something! See? This is why I didn't want to tell you guys. It's not a joke! Will you guys listen to me first? I saw something in the house earlier. It stood right in front of me. If I hadn't gotten away, that thing might have...
Last night at the party...
But it's real! What do you think I saw? It happened after, when I was trying to get away. I almost got stuck in the same room with that thing. We're all in danger. I thought you were my friends. Why don't you believe me?
That woman.
Why don't we all calm down first? I'm sure Isabella has her reasons too. No need to be hard on her.
Shit. If that was what Isabella had been warning us about, if it was the same thing Rebecca talked about last night. How many of these instances have I dismissed since reading the letter? How many have I ignored and passed off as some effect of fatigue or lack of sleep? Even last night, a hallucinogen lacing the food is the first thing I considered, purely because that's what my training dictates. It's a mindset I've grown used to. It's a setting the gears in my head automatically take in a situation like that. Of course, I'm not discounting all of that yet until I have enough information, something to form a conclusion from. Proof, in whatever form it may come. But thinking straight is impossible when, all of a sudden, all your beliefs are being upturned, in the most violent way possible at that. Jesus, I need a sounding board. I need to talk to someone, and Zach's the best person for that.
I have to go, Professor.
Oh, no problem. But what are you...
I don't have time to stop and listen to what the professor has to say, as I cut the call short. That's rude. In the same second, Isabella emerges from her apartment, fully dressed and ready for the day. As usual, she greets me with a smile, but it falls just as fast when she catches a glimpse of my face. Shame, that would have been the first comforting thing I see today. It annoys me that I'm partially responsible for the worried one replacing it. I must look close to a picture of someone choking or dying, because there's nothing but concern in the first word she speaks.
Ash, are you... Do you need to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't, okay? But we should hurry. Come on, don't forget to lock your door.
Seriously, you look like you're about to fall over. Are you alright? Because if you're planning to faint right here, I won't be able to carry you.
Yes, don't mind me. I just remembered some stuff from last night. I need to talk to Z-Man about this. Mind if we drop by his place first?
Shouldn't we call him to let him know? It's still pretty early, though we'd probably arrive there around noon. Also, what do you mean about this? Is Zach...
He was also there when I opened the letter, right? He read it too. I'm sure he's fine, but it wouldn't hurt to check on him. To make sure. See if he'll say the same things you told me yesterday.
If he's also been seeing things. If it's also the same woman I saw last night.
I'm not saying there's really a curse yet, but we have to look at this from every possible angle. And don't worry, he won't mind. He's probably just watching TV right now. Let's go.
Okay, but speak up if you're not feeling well. You really look like you're choking on something. You didn't have to do this for me in the first place.
You know it's not as simple as that.
We head down to my car in record time, not a single second wasted to hit the road and drive to Zach's place. If any one of us, other than Isabella, who knows something about what's going on, who can help sort the muddled mess my mind is, it's got to be him. He listened to her. Well, yeah, you should have too. Zach's the kind who prefers to laze around his apartment on a weekend, especially after having a busy week like the last one. The big guy's nowhere in sight, though, when I arrive in his unit. Figures, people don't seem to be where they should be when I need them. Looking around, I find no sign where he might have gone to. He usually leaves a note on his fridge if he's out for the day, just in case someone drops by. As there isn't one, he probably just went out for a quick walk. I hope. Maybe he ran out of eggs or something and wanted to buy some. He is out of eggs, after all. It puts my running mind to rest for a while. He always has to have some, be it for an omelet or something he's baking.
Ash, should you be rummaging around? It's bad enough we went in here without asking for his permission.
Chill, I'm just looking.
Actually, I could also go for a fucking pie right now, but Zach's fridge is next to empty, save for a few leftovers. All I can do is sigh as I close it behind me.
If you see me take anything, feel free to call the police.
Isabella's quick to shoot me a sharp glare, and another chuckle slips from me despite the unease in my stomach. But the cheer only lasts a mere few seconds, mostly because she hasn't been in the mood for any sort of friendly banter. It's the silence that's telling, and a quiet Isabella, it's usually the first recipe for an oncoming shitstorm.
Do you always do this whenever you visit another person's house? Because I have a lot of questions about your methods.
Just with Zach.
I'm still worried for a friend, of course, and despite what's bothering Isabella, she's anxious too. She's been standing by the doorway for a good few minutes now, since we entered Zach's place, in fact. She doesn't seem to know what to do with herself. But much as I want to put her at ease, her nervous tics are starting to get to me. The manner in which she makes herself smaller, the way she fidgets with her hands, clasping them one moment and unfurling in the next, is distracting enough that I want to ask what's wrong. I doubt she'll give me a straight answer, though, and the best I can do is help her temper it.
You don't have to hang around the door. You might be here for a while. You can sit down.
She hesitates for a second, but eventually takes the empty seat by Zach's study table.
Aren't we going to look for him?
Sure, we can, but where are we going to start? I can think of a few places he might be, but Luxburn's a big city. I don't want to miss the big guy if we leave, and...
I trail off, making a vague gesture in the general direction of Zach's bed. Why don't you just call him? Jesus. The messy bed suggests he was out in a hurry. He didn't even bother to fold the sheets. Oh, there's his phone. His cell phone's been left behind as well. Another odd thing when he has made it a habit to never leave it behind in case a client calls.
At least the locked door points to the fact that it wasn't a forced exit.
Seems to reassure her, but not so much. Understandable. Anything might happen. In hindsight, we shouldn't have left Rebecca alone, too. In hindsight, I shouldn't have left Rebecca. We'll have to check in on her leader. In the meantime, Zach. But with no other clue where he is and no other way to contact him, we have no choice but to wait. Sure, I could give the room another thorough run-through, but I don't think Zach would appreciate me upending his place. Isabella won't let me do that either. Besides, I haven't eaten anything yet. Isabella probably hasn't either. We did leave in a hurry. Might as well take this chance to cool down a bit, right? Anything to distract myself so that I don't charge headfirst because of whatever paranoid scheme that comes to mind. Isabella with me. I can't be reckless. Turning to the kitchen, the first thing I see is a bag of chips when I rifle through the cupboards. Oh, that's cute. They have, because it's, the group, Yang is the group that made the game. That's cute. After muttering a permission and apology its owner won't hear, I grab it. Isabella doesn't miss shooting me another glare, but she doesn't really make an effort to stop me this time. She ignores my offer of food, though. So instead, I sit myself on Zach's old couch and turn on the television. Isabella's silence may not be too heavy, but it sure as hell is awkward. Screen lights up right as some awful noontime drama starts airing on Channel 9. Nothing like sitting in front of the TV with a mindless drone running in the background to waste away the time. And waste it away we do. The afternoon has had its last few hours when movement comes from the other side of the door, and Zach's heavy treads break the monotonous drivel from the TV. The lock clicks, the knob turns, and slowly swings open to reveal a very exhausted-looking Zach. What, did he run a marathon?
Sup, Z-Man?
Hey, Zach. Sorry we just barged in here. Ash was...
Relax. Z-Man gave me a copy of the key himself.
Loud as my tone might be, his arrival eases the restless edge in me. Who knows what I would have done if something bad happened to one of my friends. If another minute had gone by without him showing up, I might have resorted to unconventional methods.
Only after you broke the 13th one? I can't keep replacing them every time you think it'd be a good idea to break into my apartment. And stop calling me Z-Man!
I didn't break anything this time.
Ash, just because I gave you a key doesn't mean you can just stroll in here whenever you want to. And hey, is that my...
It's scary how the friendly banter and easy smile come naturally. I do it even without thinking, and that speaks volumes about how comfortable I am around him. That's nice, isn't it? What makes me afraid of it, however, is the idea that a time might come where I might just do these without even meaning to, and offend him in some way. The friendship we have might be closer than most I've shared with others, but there are boundaries you can't cross without the other person's permission. Zach's been respectful of that so far, neither asking about my parents or what happened to them. Me? I bet he'd say not so much. It's also this easy banter that makes me wish we could just stay like this. No worries, no problems. Just potato chips in the debate on whether or not I deserve them. But as usual, something always cuts moments like this short.
Of course he eats all of it. You know, I was saving that for the weekend. Did you at least share some with Bella?
Don't worry about it. I'm good, Zach.
Really? It's free food, you know? What was that you usually say? You don't say no to free food? What happened?
No, I'm just not hungry.
Although our tone forces him to do a double take, Zach doesn't push it. The question's all too clear in his eyes when he glances my way, though. I really wish I could answer him. Despite my best efforts, Isabella's been unforthcoming as well. What am I supposed to do? I can't just force her to speak, can I? She's not a criminal to be interrogated. She's a friend, for Pete's sake. It's a good thing Zach has a better handle of the situation than I. Soon enough, he changes the subject. Or at least isn't necessarily the better topic, however.
Aye. But if you want something, just say so. I've got a fully restocked pantry right here at your disposal. Still not a 5-star level thing, but for an empty stomach, it'd do. Just say the word.
Thanks, Zach. Maybe next time. Food is not really what we came here for. Ash, he's the one who...
She stumbles into one of her uncertain silences again before glancing my way. There's a plea in there for me to take the lead in this, but where do we start? The mansion, the strange things we've been seeing, the letter? Even I am afraid of what he might say. I can't even believe I'm considering taking a deeper look into this whole thing in the first place, but here I am.
Please don't tell me something happened again.
No, nothing. None so far. And we're keeping it that way as much as possible.
Ash, it's not that easy. This isn't some...
We don't know that. Let me...
Sometimes I amaze myself how much I try for her. What else can I offer her? I was the first one who brushed her off. We've all been given our warnings that day in that desperate pleading tone of hers, and I just stood there, judging her. This is the least I can do, perhaps even to make up for all those other times I've hurt her.
Let me look at this first, okay? I agreed to help, but you've got to let me handle things from now on.
I already told you everything.
There must be something we're not seeing in this just yet. We'll sort this out, but no more silly ideas and running around on your own. You're making people worry more than necessary. Becca, especially.
So everything's fine?
Depends on who you're asking. How are things with you? Anything odd?
Good, I guess. Admittedly, how things went down at the housewarming party last night threw me off a bit.
I'm not asking about that. Remember the letter thing Isabella's been yapping on about? I'm asking about that kind of odd.
As expected, Zach starts to look at me like I've grown a second head. Yeah, I would too if there was ever a universe where I was standing in front of myself. Because even as a child, I never believed in ghost stories. The lucky charms and mystical objects from my mother have often been stored away or given as paltry gifts to those who would appreciate them more.
Well, the dreams, they're a lot worse than usual. There's a woman now, ever since we saw that letter. I don't know if it's the same one Isabella talked about. Maybe it is, maybe it ain't. I really don't want to go back to sleep sometimes. Last night was the worst. Anyway, why are you asking about this?
Rose's death isn't just a coincidence, Zach. It may have something to do with... I may have...
Wait, stop right there for a sec, Bella. I thought you ain't buying this stuff, Ash. Just the other day, you said the exact same thing.
Granted, I haven't eliminated every single possibility here yet, but what else is there to go off from here? The worried look Zach shoots my way doesn't help one bit in helping me gather my thoughts either, when that's what I came here for. Somehow, everyone's suddenly just so worried about me. It's not like I'm pulling this out of my ass.
I still don't, but even Rebecca, out of all people, claims there's something. Whatever this is, someone has got to look into it. Everything about this screams shady.
And along with Isabella's warnings, what's occurring around Zach? What's happening around Luxburn since Isabella found the letter?
Have you two seen the news this morning?
Zach's puzzled expression is enough answer. Of course he hasn't. Another night, another nightmare. This guy most likely went out as soon as he got out of bed to shake the images off. The memories have never really left him. Isabella, though...
I haven't, actually. Mama called, and I was busy.
That could easily mean anything. Did Hakuya, her older brother, end up in jail again? She's had to bail him out numerous times in the past, though all that did was piss her off, not sap out every ounce of cheer in her. Or is it the other brother, younger one, who keeps insisting that he'll quit school so she can come home? That was 2 years ago. As far as I know, she already sorted that one out. It couldn't have been her father, right? With the mansion sale, she's earned enough to cover every bill for a while. It should. So what is it then?
No problem. It should be in the afternoon news as well.
Whatever's bugging her, I doubt it's something meant for casual discussion, else she would have mentioned it sooner. Tucking my curiosity for later, I take the remote and begin cycling through the channels. A distraction. Not a good one, I admit, but it's definitely better than leaving her to brood. Eventually, I find one doing a recap of this morning's reports. And there it is. The poor guy's unidentifiable with how badly his body's been burnt. Man burned after room catches fire. Murder via arson? That's a logical explanation if I was the officer looking into it. Except they couldn't find the source of the fire. The fire didn't even spread.
Found dead in the early hours of the morning today. The fire was contained within the room and no other tenants were harmed, according to Luxburn police.
They're going to consider spontaneous human combustion soon enough if they don't find anything else. What's important for everyone to note is the state of the room.
A similar writing was found in another victim's room from last week's incident. Both were employees of Briar Realty Corporation. LBN has reached out to the...
Like what happened to Cooper. Hell, I wonder how many other deaths like this that I missed while I've been looking into right. The LBD's already thinking it's a serial killer at this point. How long until they can solve the London Metropolitan, I'm not sure. The Ansel Butcher has always been an enigma, even to the people within this city. Gone for a few years, then in the next, one body after another is found. Merely handling this case has apparently driven the chief inspector insane years ago. He never did find out who committed those murders. Maybe now, this time...
This is because of that thing, isn't it? I did this somehow.
Her words will come out like a whisper, but each syllable lingers in the air, heavy with her guilt. In the thick tension of the room, they strike harsher than any of the things we've said. However, she also has to understand, that she isn't the only one on this. No one has asked her to take this upon herself. Rebecca won't. Zach won't. I sure as hell won't.
It ain't too late. We can still fix this. There's 3 of if you count Rebecca.
No, she's staying away from this. I don't want to involve her in this any more than I already have. Both of you as well.
I already said it. That's completely out of the question. Stop asking.
Encouragements aside, this is still a whole fucking mess and we're in it blind. The only way to make it worse is if we start running around like a bunch of headless chickens. But I have a concrete plan now, I think. Maybe Isabella's right. Maybe we should dig deeper into BRC itself. Maybe we are looking at it the wrong way. However, my suspicions are mine for the moment. The details are something Zack doesn't need to know until I have something to show. It's enough that he's aware that I have an idea in mind. For his part, Z-Man doesn't push it. Nothing but a heavy silence leads our departure hours later. Seriously, Zack would probably make a more responsible officer than me if he only had the heart to join the force. We could certainly use more kind people like him. But as good as that thought is, I push all of it into the back of my mind as Isabella and I head for my car. Tonight, I can't stay distracted. Except for a few half-hearted attempts to get some kind of reaction from Isabella, the drive to BRC is a quiet, awkward affair, more so the hour-long wait for nightfall. Even with only the two of us, the place is rife with tense energy, only a matter of minutes now. But the ticking seconds don't take away the edge, and for the 5th time, I reach out and fiddle with the radio, adjusting and turning the knobs with no real purpose. It's a nervous quirk I developed and never bothered to correct during stakeouts, something to keep my mind occupied during long nights. What else is there for me to do? The person I usually count on for a casual, out-of-the-blue chat refuses my attempts at starting one.
Ash, out with it!
The way she quickly falters into silence after, in spite of the tone she takes, though, makes me doubt if she really means everything she's telling me right now. She hasn't even glanced my way since we arrived.
Having second thoughts? You can still back out if you want.
We're just going to my office. Why should I?
Dunno? You can get in trouble, maybe. This isn't exactly legal.
Scope BRC out, see if the real estate company has any more information that may be of help. Find things about Cooper and the other agents assigned to the Ermengarde mansion. According to Isabella, it's the last property the victims have worked on. Sure, I could also check the station for full reports. That's the easy, semi-legal way. But I don't want to bump into Chief right now. The guys at the precinct will definitely throw me out on his orders as soon as they see me. Not that my plan right now is any better. I'm just breaking into a different place, more or less, with a civilian to boot. The latter still doesn't sit well with me. It never will, especially if this might put her in a very tricky position afterwards. She's been very careful when it comes to her work. Almost a model employee, as people would say. Why is she throwing caution to the wind now?
I'm not an employee here. I'm not supposed to be looking for any confidential stuff. Only people like you are privy to.
If you mentioned earlier that this is your plan, I might have had enough time to think about it. I already promised to help if you need access to those files. I didn't think you'd want to see them this soon and in this way. Besides, the same goes for you, right? You were taken off your case. Won't you get in trouble with your boss?
Honestly, it's a toss-up between breaking into her office or into the Wright's mansion. As it stands, I'll have an easier time getting in here first. After all, why would someone want to break into a realty company? Been here many times before anyway, for a few casual visits when I wanted to bug Scaredy Cat. Over the years, I have more or less grown familiar with their security setup and how badly staffed they are. Plus, it's an old building. If the bankruptcy rumors are true, it just means their access protocols might also be outdated.
Still, I can do this on my own, you know.
Really? And how are you even planning to get into our office without an access card? Please explain.
Well, I was going to pry open the card reader and use a gecko.
You're a hopeless case. I really want to know why no one has locked you up yet.
Yet you're helping me with this. Willingly. I don't think that'll sit well with the Philippine embassy either. Chances are you'll probably get deported the minute they find out.
Low blow, I know, but it's worth a shot when she can still turn back. It's not like I don't have any means to get into the place. With or without her, I have a way.
At least I have a reason to be snooping about. My badge and rank can speak for me in case things go south. You?
For a passing second, it seems to work. A hint of panic and hesitation flashes across her features when she looks to me with searching eyes. Then, unexpectedly, it dissolves. Not behind the fear I'm anticipating, but underneath something sharp and searing. I'm not sure what she sees exactly or what she's hoping to find in the short while she holds my gaze. All of it merely goes unspoken, and no longer than a minute later, she simply averts her attention back to the window, training it once again at some point outside.
Isabella, please, now's not the time.
It's too late for that, Ash. Give it a rest.
An appeal, spoken in a voice too harsh, coming from her. Perhaps unintentional, perhaps one that's already too exhausted of everything going on lately. It's hard not to concede when she takes on that tone, and soon despite myself I sigh. Tucking away every concern I've been lugging around in favor of trusting her on this, according her the same confidence she has implicitly given me all this time.
Alright, okay, if that's what you want. And don't worry. I didn't mean what I said earlier. I won't let anything happen to you.
Her lips briefly turn up in a smile, though none of the cheer reaches her eyes.
Just get this over with, okay? Everyone should be out of the office by now.
Somehow, the uncertainty in her posture makes me wonder if she intended it as some kind of a comforting gesture. Whether it's for me or for her, she doesn't let me find out. Without saying another word, she exits the car, while I'm left scrambling and chasing after her. She's already at the side entrance, a hand raised on the card reader beside it, and now they're poised to push the door open when I catch up to her. Whatever doubt there's been in her face a while ago, it's gone. Seeing her like this makes it easier to believe my worries are unfounded, that things might go smoothly this time.
And where do you think you kids are going? It's late. Most offices in this building have already closed up shop for the weekend.
The bloke seems friendly enough, though one can't really tell from his voice alone. It might be the wary sort, for all I know. Keeping an unconcerned face and aloof air won't hurt, till I figured out how to wiggle us out of the situation.
Just come back on Monday if you have important business.
But from the way Isabella's face brightens up, it looks as though getting through won't be too much of a problem. He's probably been working here for a few months already then, maybe around 4 to 6 months max. Otherwise, he would have recognized Isabella or me at first glance. I haven't shown my face here since I've been assigned to the firm case a year ago. In the first place, none of their security officers ever lasted a year in service. The longest was around 7.5. I'll give this guy around that before he gets fired or finds a better paying job. For the moment, his too friendly attitude is almost a gift.
Hey, Seb!
Oh, look who we have here. Been a few days since I last saw that ponytail in here, Santiago?
Close enough!
Wait, don't tell me yet. I'll get it right this time. Sanchez.
You were closer the first time?
Drat. I swear it is on the tip of my tongue. I just need a hint to remember.
I take it back. This geezer's not going to last past this month. He can't remember a regular employee's name.
Alrighty, I'm sure of it this time. Centillon?
Still a ways off, Seb.
Isabella, we don't have all night.
I know, just let me handle this. Sorry, Seb. Some other time. We're in a bit of a hurry. I just need to get a few things from my cubicle. Important work stuff, you know? Is it okay if we drop upstairs for a sec?
Oh, absolutely. No, go right ahead. As long as you have your access card with you, we're good. Not sure if I'm allowed to let your boyfriend in, though.
Who, me?
My what?
Your boyfriend. The guy with you, isn't he?
It's a fair observation, if I do say so myself. Needless to say, the silence that descends is both uncomfortable and terribly awkward. Although the latter's probably mostly coming from me, because in the next second, Isabella laughs. Laughs. Lighter than the ones I've heard from her lately. Comforting sound, really, after seeing her in such a dour mood since this morning. Even as all of it subsides into mere chuckles sooner than I'd like. It's comforting to see them at least partially responsible for it, despite my poor heart being beaten to a sorry pulp. Oh, get over it.
Oh, no! No. He's definitely not my boyfriend.
Eee! She might as well have set it on fire and reduced it to dust while she's at it. Frankly, the number of the no's in that sentence alone is a bit too much. Christ, one would have been enough to get the message across. Does she really have to put it that way?
That's impossible! Stop being funny, Seb. I'll go on ahead, okay?
She quickly shovels inside with nothing more than a small wave, leaving behind an even more awkward atmosphere for me to wade through. Would have been bearable if I didn't have to suffer through a stranger's amusement. The last woe was me.
Not the boyfriend, but close to it, huh?
Mind your own business.
Kids these days. Good to see her up and about, though. Thought for sure she'd up and disappear like the others.
Excuse me?
You know, stuff in the news.
You mean what happened with Rose Cooper?
If I'm going to be stuck here with him for a while, might as well try to gather as much intel as I can. He may just be a guard, someone with no real authority, but most of the time, people like him are the ones who know more than they let on.
Yeah, but even before that, we've got a couple of good blokes we never saw again.
Really? Those guys could have just resigned for all you know.
No, I only catch tidbits of stuff from over here. Oh, seriously, I heard the branch is getting flushed soon, but that's no excuse for anarchy. Figures why Boss Man's been in an awful temper these past months.
They managed to strike a good deal with the mansion in Ansem, right? That didn't do the trick?
Didn't seem like it. The bloke shouting like no tomorrow again. Wasn't very pleased when Gurley called and asked for another leave yesterday afternoon.
Gurley? Isabella?
It's not too surprising, considering she's already been gone for 3 days. Now she's asking for another? Not that it's a bad thing. It's within her rights as an employee, but Isabella rarely uses her work leaves.
Yeah, poor lassie if you ask me. She found him a buyer for that mansion after all. The least you could do is be considerate to her after a family member's passing.
Wait, what?
The rumors, BRC, Rose Cooper, missing in action employees, all of it ceases to matter in that instant. Almost on instinct, my eyes zeroed on the intercom speaker, as if staring daggers at it will show me the man behind the voice, so I can see the truth in his face myself.
Oh, you don't know?
No, what?
Nothing. I shouldn't be the one you're asking, and, you know, things might get a bit boring here. No one really wants to hear what a poor old guard wants to say. Why don't you just go after her? As long as you're not looking to create trouble for me, it won't be a problem. You aren't here for that, right?
He's lucky I'm not here to hurt anyone. If I were someone with ill intentions, he might not be smiling at the end of the day.
Well, no, but...
I'll go and unlock that side entrance for you then. Just don't forget to turn off the lights before you both leave, okay?
Hey, wait a second. What do you mean by...
He cuts off the connection before I can finish. The rest of my question dies in my throat. Soon the latch clicks and the side door swings open. Seb, a stout man wearing a uniform still too loose for him, waves me over from the gap before he disappears behind a station again. Just my luck. Here I thought I'm going to have to count on whatever Isabella brings with her. Although, no matter how much I want to feel happy, something else has already taken a firm seat in the forefront of my mind. Is that why she's been acting not like herself today? Since when? Of course, as I step into the building, I try to push all of these questions as far down as I can. I need to focus. Work is work. But if what I've heard is exactly what I think it is, if it's a sign of things to come, honestly, I don't feel too good about that. It's quite right up to the 7th floor where the BRC Luxburn main office is. Seb has been kind enough to switch the guest elevator's power on just as I'm about to head for the fire exit stairs. Which is a welcome relief. I'm an active guy, but stairs? I don't want to tire out too quickly in case things get ugly. There probably won't be any trouble with the building this quiet, but you never know. I swear, the whole place definitely feels eerie at this time of night. But until I've confirmed anything, those are still just stories. Worse things can happen. No need to scare myself. Staying calm means fewer mistakes.
Oh, I sure am fucking gutsy, especially with what I'm doing.
I'm breaking a lot of laws here. I'm also putting Isabella in a lot of risks. Best thing that can come out of this is that Isabella's right all along. Worst case scenario? 1, someone finds out Isabella's involvement in this and her boss fires her. 2, I find evidence that would implicate BRC or Luke Ray in a crime, and my meddling, if I'm not careful enough, makes it inadmissible in court. Though I'll be honest, I strongly prefer losing my job or facing right over some spirit or ghost or whatever it is. I bet something creepy's gonna happen in this elevator. I could always walk around the problems with the former. Isabella could also find a better job. BRC never did pay her properly, despite her efforts. But fighting off a phantom? How does one even do that? Do guns even work with them?
Yeah, not going to happen.
But tonight, I'm here to fix things. If I do it without leaving a trail, all the better. Good thing that's what I'm good at. Don't be creepy, don't be creepy. It's dark. What I'll probably never be good at is finding the proper words when a sitch calls for it. But seeing Isabella's small form beyond those doors, how she pushes through despite carrying an entirely different burden this time, how she's pretending as if everything's normal, it's difficult not to try. People who have never looked beyond her smiles will never know, will never understand. Hell, even Rebecca's probably not yet aware of this. I get it. We have some other problems at hand. I've done the same thing plenty of times to protect myself after all. But it's all in her eyes when she glances up at the few light raps I give the door. She wastes no time in leaving the mess of papers on the table and opening it for me, though even her confusion as she takes in my presence barely hides it.
Seb, let you in?
The rough edge in her voice rings a whole different tune now that I'm aware why. But knowing is different from hearing it straight from her. I can't simply bring this up, can I? It's not a topic suited for casual conversation, and I doubt she wants to talk to me about it. As much as I want to help, there's a distance between us I'll never be able to cross, one that wouldn't even be there if it wasn't for me. Perhaps, if I'd been more honest years ago and less of a coward, I might have been able to. Figures I couldn't even do that for the one person I keep telling myself that I care deeply about.
What can I say? I'm a very charming person.
To a rock, maybe?
This is the closest we can get to it, I suppose. The light banter, the fleeting glances, or sometimes the long bouts of silence. And it's enough. For me it is, because even without words, there's comfort. With her, it's easy.
Must be a pretty cool rock, then.
Ugh, get over yourself.
Hey now, I deserve some slack here. Today's supposed to be my day off, and yet here I am, helping you out.
Helping? By standing at the door?
Well, you're not exactly letting me in.
Despite what she says, she moves to block me when I try to enter. She must have expected this the second we walked out the building's entrance, and counted on the night shift guard to bar me from the place. It's reassuring to know she's somehow worried about me, though it's a bit misplaced at the moment. Besides, her concerns aside, I really can't let her get into the thick of things without me. Not with all the problems on her plate right now.
Isabella?
Seriously, Ash, Seb might get in trouble for this. You might get in even bigger trouble with your boss.
And you're not? We've already talked about this back at Zach's. It's out of the question.
At least do it for Seb, please. He's a really nice guy. With the way things are going here,
On that, I agree with her. Seb's not such a bad fellow, might be a little careless with his job and talks too much, but he means well. I'd hate to see the guy leave here with a bad record in case something goes wrong. However, the anxious look she shoots back the tail behind her bring an even bigger worry.
Did you find something? Aside from what you told me about yesterday?
not yet. I'm not sure. I haven't started going through the files we have in the records room. Just the ones they handed to me and Rose.
Let me see.
Wait, Ash!
Isabella, I already promised you that no one's going to get in trouble after we're done here. Even Seb. I'll make sure we leave the place clean.
Promises, promises. Her hesitation's still there, a split second of indecision as she tries to form an argument. Eventually, when nothing comes to mind, she steps aside.
Okay, but we can't take the original files out of this office. Clear? Not even a single sheet. We'll just have to make a copy.
Don't worry, that's the plan.
It appears to reassure her. A nod, then shortly she gestures for me to follow. Passing the sea of cubicles, I can't help but take in everything in their office. Force of habit for the most part. As far as I know, BRC Luxburn used to own this whole building. Offices in several floors once upon a time when a real estate is still a lucrative business for the company in this side of the country. Then competition showed up. Suddenly everything's not so good anymore. It only got worse as the years went by, or so according to the rumors. Now the branch is just this floor, despite what the huge sign in the building's facade says. And frankly, it's not too hard to believe when one looks at the state of the room of this now. A number of desks have been cleared out. Personal mementos are scarce, as if the employees have gone on an exodus. That'll be the downsizing. Probably. Still worrisome, though. Of course, I shake away all of this when Isabella starts handing me the papers she's been looking through. Focus, Frey. There's no point in whining or dwelling any longer on it. That's why we're here in the first place, to find out what the real deal is the old-fashioned way. Isabella's presence is a whole other blessing, too. I couldn't imagine how long this would take if I pushed going in here alone.
Is this everything? Where are the documents you mentioned?
Still locked up in the records room. Do you need them now?
Bring them here. Everything that has to do with the mansion's sale. Even those who worked on it during the renovations. The cleanup. Everything. Including your mandatory sign-in sheets.
It's an odd thing to bring up, but at least it elicits a laughter from her before she heads for the records room. She remembers. No matter how weak the sound of it is from her usual ones, it's a welcome thing to hear. Reminds me that the Isabel I know is still in there. She returns minutes later with a thick stack of folders and binders. The next half of the hour, we work in complete silence while we dig into everything compiled in the folders. Not an easy task considering how thick the whole thing is, but there's two of us. In fact, Isabella does most of the work, sorting the contracts, the employee list, and stuff we won't need into a neat pile. Just the files for the restoration alone make up a stack of papers that's an inch thick. Third-party service providers hired for the masonry, radiators, woodworking, plasterwork, slate roofing, and a whole bunch of other things are well documented. Hell, every single contractor who worked on the project was listed individually, even if they were just there to do the plumbing. It's a high-profile and high-cost estate, all right, but with that scope comes the loopholes. It means plenty of room to hide something in if there's something fishy going on. All I have to do is find a pattern, and it doesn't take long. Upon closer glance, despite the original owners shouldering the renovation costs, it'll be surprising if they managed to break even on the Ermengarde mansion. What with the additional expenses for the open house, the commission for their agents, and their overhead fees. At one point, the negotiations to get it listed under BRC's name almost broke down too. Some disagreement about the listing price. The owners wanted to be rid of it as quickly as possible, while keeping the worth at a profitable level. BRC was insisting on a higher amount, double what the appraisers suggested. This, plus the rumor that their branch is closing, BRC Luxburn really is in the red, and the sale of the mansion could have easily been a desperate move to keep the branch afloat.
No wonder the final sale happened as fast as it did. Did you know about this?
No. They took it off our hands after I submitted the final documents for the sale. I didn't even know until I read this. I'm not sure if Rose did. I've only been given the key of the records room after she... Anyway, my point is, they've kept all the files from me. Rose was the one who compiled everything from our side. And even then, she was probably not aware of this. There's only so much they let us know. After that, they just told us to wait for our commission, and that the legal team would handle the rest. The rumors are true. Huh.
Seems so.
Sheesh, this place is just unlucky. Going bankrupt while the rest of this crap is happening. This isn't what we're looking for. What we need is the who. The people aside from Isabel and Cooper involved in this business with the mansion, and the how they are now. We can't do much with the outside contractors. They won't be on file. The employee list, on the other hand, even with 2 people working through the pile, the whole task still takes quite a while. It's a quarter of an hour later when we put down the papers with a sigh and move on to the clients upon Isabella's insistence. For that, the sign-in form from when the open house comes in handy. Something that gives me a laugh when I spy the fake name I wrote on one of the sheets.
Why'd I even pick this name? It sounds so lame.
Ashley?
What name?
Nothing important. Just focus on those papers you have. We need to finish this soon, before Seb suspects.
She snatches a paper away before the thought of hiding it occurs to me. Not that there's much secret in it. Isabella found me that afternoon anyway, but still.
Ash? Lee?
I've been careless that day, tailing Luke Ray without confirming where they were headed off to. While the butler's terribly efficient in keeping the rights engagements from the public eye, there are other ways, if only I'd given it the time of day. In retrospect, I've been too eager, too impatient to find something that'll crack the case and be done with it. Maybe my failure goes as far back as the day of the open house, not during the party last night.
Yeah, well, I was pressed for time.
Seriously? Ashley? Were you even trying?
Oh, come on. You didn't even notice I was the one who wrote it down.
Of course I wouldn't. Only an idiot would use his real name.
It worked, though. Admit it. It's genius. Who would have thought, huh?
She responds with a roll of her eyes, then drops the matter entirely by shoving the paper back into my hands. We lapse back to our respective tasks afterwards, wordlessly skimming through everything. Read, set aside, get another one. Looking back at the sign-in sheet, I spot Luke Wright and Hannah Wright listed up top. Not that I don't know about them already, of course, but scanning through the list, a name immediately comes to my attention.
Madeline Williams.
Madeline Williams.
Something wrong?
Huh? No, just that I remember this girl listed here.
Sounds so familiar. She frowns, moves her seat closer, and takes careful read of the sheet. There's a long moment before she speaks up again, but from the way she tenses, she appears to be expecting the worst already.
What about her?
She was with me, in the group following Cooper, when we toured the upstairs part of the mansion, I mean. Rather loud one, especially when we took a peek into the attic. Kept talking about the ghost stories the whole tour.
Then, do you? Do you think she's...
She was reported missing 3 days after.
There was a ruckus at the precinct the day her family filed it. Threats were naturally given at the lack of progress days later. Desperate ones. Her family's willing to shell out all the cash they have just to find her. To no avail, unfortunately. Officer Benjamin has been in a bad mood ever since he spoke with them, but what can he do? What can we do? He's tied, we're all tied. There's only so much we're able to do with everything that has been shoved into our hands recently.
She still hasn't been found. It's already been a week.
Isabella makes no further comment aside from a nod. Instead, she sits back in her chair with a distant look in her eyes, her hands balling to a fist as she struggles with her frustration. Or maybe it's anger. But the moment doesn't last too long. Soon her grip loosens, and she folds her hands back on her lap. Her expression, however, is one I've seen too many times in the mirror. What does one say to a person burdened not by one loss, but many, who carries it on her shoulders like a badge of shame? I've yet to find the answer to that myself. Until then, the only way is forward, press on to see where our attempts at fixing our mistakes might lead us. And despite my own doubts, a glimpse of that look on her face is enough reason for me. I can't just give up. There's too much at stake, too much to lose. With a renewed focus, I continue. On the third and last sheet, I spot another one, Beatrice Wilde, one I recall from the newspaper obituaries. Died of a heart attack. A letter of correspondence expressing condolences to her family confirms as much in her files. Passed away at age 74 in her sleep.
She's at that age. It certainly could have been a natural death.
Right? I'd like to believe so. 3 more letters turn up when I rummage through the stack, and it leaves nothing more than a foreboding feeling in me. They're all addressed to families of clients who have passed away in the past week. Regardless, these go into the pile of things worth looking into after our visit here, along with William's info sheet. There are just so many names, so many faces, each one I've seen that day, and here I am wondering if they're all right. It isn't a selfless thought that brings the question to mind. Rather, it's the logic that if more of them are still alive, the more people I can choose to question. Nothing's concrete yet, of course. These are just speculations, but we're making progress. Once done with the sign-in sheets, I stash it along with the growing pile to my left, and pull out as many of the other documents Isabella has already prepared for me. We're working through the employee list now, those who have been assigned to the mansion. Because if Isabella was to be believed, if what she's seen and what happened to Rose Cooper is because of that letter, I need to know everyone who had possibly read it, aside from the 3 of us, if they've been noticing strange things too. For all I know, these may have just been a terrible coincidence. Although the thought of that starts to diminish as we dig into the BRC's company files. 15 minutes later, the stack close to my elbow has risen from 5 to 21 different dossiers. Client-employee documentation, people who have either visited the open house or worked on the property in some capacity since the letter's discovery. Turns out, there were 2 more employees who handled the mansion directly, aside from Cooper and Isabella. Christian Sy, the realty specialist, and Mark Julius Jean-Marie, the estate appraiser.
This C guy. He was in custody just the other day.
Really? Sir John has been looking for him. He stopped reporting to work a few weeks ago. Are you sure it's the same person?
Yep, this is him. Folks at the precinct said they went to his house after a noise complaint. They found him just acting all crazy. Had to take him in when he started getting violent. He kept screaming about a woman.
Immediately, she stiffens. I don't want to bring it up or imply a connection to Isabella's stories, but that is exactly what happened.
He was driving the guards mad, but he didn't last too long in there. A few hours in, and he just started bashing his own head against the wall, and it was messy, to say the least.
Oh, no. We had no idea. Is he okay? HR just marked him as AWOL because none of their calls would get through.
He's in the hospital right now. I heard they're putting him into a psychiatric ward as soon as he recovers. He's still a bit unstable.
Jean-Marie, on the other hand, his employee file notes his date of leaving and even when his final payment had been given. Along with it, there's a letter to his family about the appraiser being found dead in the office. Communication is hush-hush, and there's mention of compensation if they don't talk about it to the media. Inspector Abigail has often scolded me for not reading the reports on a regular basis, but I try to keep up to date as much as I can. When I do, I make sure I'm aware of the gist of what's going on in my city. This never reached the police's ears or the health and safety executive.
Do you know about this guy?
One glance at her says everything. They've hidden it from the media. They've kept it from the police. It's not surprising this will also be a secret from someone of Isabella's position in this company. Fuck.
Rose was looking for him last week. We haven't heard anything from him either until now. They never mentioned this to us.
Business going under and someone dies while working here? Of course they want to keep that quiet. It's bad publicity. This whole thing is just getting freakier by the minute. Nevertheless, I hand the files for Isabella to make a copy of.
The pages with their names, addresses, and contact numbers will do. We'll start with the ones who live within the city.
Sometimes there are things you really can't just brush off as a mere coincidence. In my line of work, once a pattern pops up, it's only right to be suspicious. Especially the thing with C. Hits too close to the stuff my own friends have been telling me.
All of this?
It's considerably thinner than the one she brought in. Yet somehow the way she hugs the folders close to herself makes it seem heavier. Like she's hanging onto it in the same manner one will latch onto a lifeline.
Only the noteworthy ones.
And those that might still be alive. Might. She doesn't need to know that.
We can't check the outside contractors, but the guys with the direct connection to BRC and the people who attended the open house should be enough. We don't have time to see how everyone's doing, especially if what you said is true.
For a second she appears about to argue, then quickly decides against it and hides it away before anyone reads the question in her face. Then, in a true abrupt motion, she turns toward the copier and gets to work. Soon only the machine's constant thrum fills the air around us, while I keep myself busy cleaning up the mess we've made. The lack of talk is awkward, to put it mildly, disturbing at worst. I've gotten so used to letting her just babble away whenever it's just the two of us. I could tell, however, she wants to do more. She wants to fix this mess herself, and that desire makes her antsy. But at the same time, she's learning how not to be impulsive or stubborn, exactly as I've told her yesterday before agreeing to any of this. Or maybe these so-called changes have always been with her. Dire situations have always pushed people to change, after all. Although seeing this happen in front of me only makes it difficult to find the proper things to say. In an atmosphere this tense and charged, what is left for us to talk about? Certainly not the news. What's worse is when you only realize all this in hindsight, right after you've already ran your mouth off.
You know, for a house your company seems to be in a hurry to sell, they still made quite a fortune out of it. Look at this. 1, 2, 3... 6. Are you sure they're planning to give your entire share for this? This isn't a small amount, especially given the usual cut. And their accounting department isn't in the greatest shape either.
Even if they don't, it's not like someone still needs it.
And there's the reason why people don't let me talk. Silence once again descends throughout the room, denser compared to the ones we've shared tonight. Behind me, I can still hear her movements, sharp and precise while she feeds the originals to the machine. Then, with one last click, all of it stops. Her feet shuffle lightly against the floor when she moves away. Something creaks softly, probably the table, as she settles her weight against his side. By this time, an apology's already at the tip of my tongue, but...
Belle,
Papa's gone, Ash.
Within those scant few seconds, everything between us shifts as the gravity of her words sinks. Right then and there, something harsh and immovable rises between us. Death is something I'm familiar with. Almost 10 years in the police force, and it's impossible not to be acquainted with it. But this is different from those dead bodies we examined in forensics. A far cry from the victims we found on a bad investigation. Those I could easily distance myself from. No emotional attachments, no need for pretenses. Yet somehow I still find myself grasping for things to tell her. Any words of comfort that'll dull the pain. As even without looking at her, her grief feels palpable enough. Her pain an immutable weight hanging over us. So gently I offer... Tell me about him.
when?
Huh? When what?
Your dad. I mean, when did you find out?
She doesn't answer. Not immediately, anyway. For a long moment, the hush simply stretches out before us, spanning across the seconds we let pass while we both simply stand there, waiting. Eventually she exhales. Lightly, muted enough that I might have missed it, had I not been paying attention to her every movement.
Yesterday, around 3 in the afternoon there, Mama called. She told me he passed away in his sleep, and I guess I can take comfort in that, huh? But Papa wasn't in any pain when...
She trails off, releases another ragged breath hidden underneath her chuckles. Each one's mirthless, heavy with nothing but sorrow. Then she falters into silence, and for all my attempts at lightening her burden, I'm suddenly at a loss. Reassurance could only do so much, when her only reason for staying here has suddenly been taken from her, a hope yanked from under her feet right after it is generously given. And without that, without the one person who pushes her to endure all of the shit we're going through, she's going through, means nothing but a struggle. What does one say to a person fraying at the edges, slowly wearing thin and breaking? Are words even enough? What right do I have anyway? I cannot give her anything, apart from lies that changed me as a person, and affections she may or may not even want for herself. Because no matter how easy she has wormed into our lives, how immutable her presence has become, her own heart will always yearn for something else. For home.
Tell me about him.
Huh? About what?
Your dad. Tell me about him. Anything. Just talk. Say anything you want. Doesn't matter what it is. I'll listen.
Silence again, as though she's testing the weight of my question. For what purpose it is, for a reason I can't even say right now. After a while, though, she starts, reluctantly, her voice hitching, faltering, and stumbling on each syllable she chooses her words. A rough start, but soon it steadies, and along with it, to keep company the stories from childhood and memory she's fond of. Aww, are the tears. Despite this, in spite of the grief choking her words off, the hurt closing her throat, the sobs racking her lithe form, she continues, like the mere act of speaking is relief in itself, a release. She tells me of her father, the very person who named her, how she looked up to him, how she was a bit of a tomboy growing up in her attempts to imitate him, and how the man encouraged her to pursue what she really wanted, perhaps even the only thing she ever did for herself, having grown up not wanting anything more than food to put on their tables.
He told me I don't have to listen to them. That I can do what I want. Every day, he'd wake up at 4, Ash. Because he'd earn more that way. And every time, every single time, he'd give them to me. Whatever extra he earned, he'd hand them all. So I'd have something to use for my paintings. And you know what? Back home, just a good tube of paint costs almost as much as what we spend for food the whole day. But he'd always set something aside. Told me he wanted to see my paintings in a museum one day.
She pours all of it out, every little thing she loved and admired about him. Like this, it's easy to see why she's gone to such great lengths for him, why she abandoned her dreams, why she went against his wishes just to grant him another chance at life. Others will say it's her warmth that draws people to her, or her cheer. Neither are wrong, but neither is the whole truth to her either. Because those who have never bothered to look beyond the surface will never see it, see her. See someone earnest, someone who's always meant well despite her underlying stubbornness. This is how she loves. Warm, steadfast, unflinching. You never meet many people like her, not in my line of work. Not with the kind of people I've had to deal with. Always with something to hide, always with something to lie about. Eventually, when you run across too many of them, you change. You become like them. In many ways, for a lot of reasons, she's the kind of person I want to be and be around with, who made me feel I am still worth something.
He didn't want me to leave. Said, begged. I could finish my studies first. In the end, I couldn't even grant him that one request. I'm a terrible daughter, aren't I?
You're not.
Huh?
You're not. I can't speak for your dad. I haven't even met the man. But I know you're not.
I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with this. The remark just came out. Now I'm stringing all of these together as I go. But one thing is certain, none of what I'm about to say is a lie.
The Isabella I know is a total klutz, but I've never seen anyone work as hard as she does. She's the type who wears her heart on her sleeve. Though it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's always in the right place. She's intimidated by a lot of stuff, but she knows how to appreciate the smallest things in life. Frankly, you've caused us no small amount of trouble since you barged into our lives. But when I'm with you, all of my worries seem trivial.
Heat has already carved up my face when the turn this whole thing is about to take registers. Before I blurt the rest of it out, declare feelings I'm not even ready to reveal to anyone, much less to her. My hand comes up to smother the rest of it. The embarrassment quickly takes the reins before I can completely clamp my mouth shut.
And I'm pretty sure Zach and Becca think the same way. You have a nasty way of growing on people like that, and you know what? We got everything we needed in here. I'll just wipe the security recordings and we're good to go. While I'm at it, you better wipe the snot off your face. And you don't look very nice when you're balding.
Oh my
like that.
god. You ignorant small boy. Hastily, I gather everything, the personnel files, client documents, sales agreements, and contracts, anything my hands could reach. In record time, all of it has been stacked in a neat pile, ready for storage. I'm heading for the records room not a few seconds later. Wherever that is. It should be an easy find, unless this place is a maze of some sort, which I highly doubt. Still beats staying here and seeing the look on her face. Crap. Really, her anger's still bearable. I could take that, including the glower she sends my way.
So, yeah, I'll go get the security videos and put these back where you pulled them from. Man, these are heavy, you know?
Ash, it's just paper. You don't even know where I...
Oh, no, I can handle this. Easy as pie. And, yeah, security cams, tapes, videos, cams. Yeah, I'm off.
Her rejection at this point. Maybe not yet. Something scary gonna happen. Getting the files back to BRC's archive room is a cinch. With the documents back in their proper places, I locked the door behind me, tugging it twice just to make sure. Now on to the next order of business. Removing the evidence of our little excursion in here, or at the very least, the parts showing what we've been doing for the past hour. Can't have our faces plastered on security footage, showing us breaking the law, as it were. Gonna have to wipe the data for Isabella's access card entries, too. Surprisingly, finding their security room proves a breeze. What will be tricky is getting inside. The fact that no one has walked out during the whole time we've been here means the room is either empty or their security sound asleep. I'm banking more on the former. If they're cutting corners and firing agents, I have no doubt that they fired the guy stationed here, if they have anyone watching the monitors in the first place. It's a rather common thing for establishments. Just leave security recording indefinitely and only check the footage if something actually happens. Just to check, I press my ears against the door, listening for a sign of anyone occupying the room. After a long minute and nothing, I give the knob a few rattles.
Standard lock and key. Should be easy enough to pick.
We have lock pick sets, but those are only to be used if necessary and with a search warrant. Even that is a skill set rarely needed. Subtlety isn't on a cop's priority if they have the authority to search the premises. Bolt cutters and brute force are the favored methods. If those fail, we call a locksmith. Me, I prefer the good old hairpin trick when those options aren't available. Besides, they're easy to hide and store for emergencies. Running my hand through my hair, I pull a pair of bobby pins. Two of these, and I can just about open any standard lock. One makes a lever, and the other one makes a handle. I won't call it a complex skill, but it certainly takes time and a lot of practices to successfully pick a lock. Good thing I practiced with them for a bit in my college years. I learned more when they're accessible and a standard issue for a law enforcement officer. Wiggle here, click there, and I managed to seize all the pins in the locking mechanism soon enough. With a slight turn of the knob, the security room's right for the picking. Ooh, creepy! The room's odor hits me first, a sharp, nauseating stench, as if someone has accidentally spilled a gallon of bleach in this room. When was the last time they opened this place?
Ugh, this place smells awful. Jesus, it's worse than the forensics lab on a bad day.
Well, doesn't it mean it's clean? Because that's, like, clean stuff? I don't know. This is probably because of a badly botched effort to clean the place up. Even in the dark, I can spy dark stains on the walls. I really don't have the time to try and play is this ketchup or soda right now, but I have this strange gut feeling who the mess might belong to. As expected, no security personnel mans the office's CCTV controls, and standalone DVR setup is open for anyone. Normally, I'd have a heap of things to say about the sloppy security setup. Right now, their negligence makes the whole task of erasing evidence easier.
No fuss, no muss.
The next one should be the access card data. Hopefully, getting into the computer won't be too much of a hassle. Everything up to now has been smooth sailing. There have been hiccups, I'll give it that, but that does nothing to dampen the good mood I'm in. Once I shift my attention to the machine sitting next to the DVR setup, all of it swiftly evaporates. I'm no computer buff, but I can definitely recognize one more than a decade old. Simply looking at it makes me feel younger. With a heavy sigh, I power it up and mentally prepare myself for a slow slug. Slow, apparently, remains an understatement here. It takes a whole 3 minutes for the things to start up. The OS hasn't even started loading, and in my boredom, I start inspecting the live feeds from the cams. Only two work. One for the view outside, everything seems to be in order there, and the other for the main workspace where it's a fleeting glimpse, a cursory glance, but the sight of it stops me. The image is a bit blurry. Oh my god, I can see. Oh god, no, thank you, no thank you. Standing right in the middle of the room by one of the cubicles, I can make out the form of a...
What the hell is...
I don't get too far into that line of thought. No few seconds after my words have slipped out, without any sort of warning, while I'm still trying to make sense of what it is, it's gonna jump me. The figure moves. Oh no, don't come closer, One of paralysis hits when she stops right in front of the camera. Like a damn rookie, I go still in the face of danger. I definitely have been trained to handle the supernatural, and this is one, isn't it? And, oh fuck. Her eyes bore into me, the malice in them piercing. Even beyond the screen, it's enough to make me go numb. Only the mug crashed into my floor when my hand accidentally takes a swipe at it, snaps me out of the trance, reminding me that I'm not the only one here. Isabella. It seems she hasn't noticed anything. Am I the only one seeing this? In any case, whatever's happening, I have to get her out. Gathering my wits, I quickly reach for my phone. It takes all but 2 seconds before she answers, but there's no time for relief.
Did you really have to call? We're practically on the same floor.
Get out of there.
What? What are you...
Out. Get out. I'll meet you in the elevator.
You're creeping me out, Ash.
Just get yourself out of that place, now!
Without second thought, I back away from the controls from the room, ready to be done with this place. Before my foot moves, she disappears. Oh, no. Oh! Instinct instantly takes over, and my hand quickly reaches for the gun at my side, only to meet empty air. A mistake that cost me a few precious seconds while the paperwork I brought with me threatens to scatter everywhere at the same time. Gathering everything in myself once more, with no weapon to protect myself, my sense of self-preservation kicks in next, and I lunge toward the door. I sprint across the office without daring to look back. Isabella's already waiting in front of the elevators by the time I make it out of their office. Worry creases her eyebrows among glancing at me, but I don't have time to answer the question in her eyes. As soon as I reach her, I grab her arm, practically throw the two of us into the open elevator, and slam the button for the ground floor. A sigh of relief escapes me when the elevator starts its descent. The clicking noise fades off into the distance. Beside me, Isabella shifts, moving the stack of papers under her arm while she takes in my appearance. Concerns in her eyes, although all I offer her is a small gesture of my hand while I attempt to compose myself. Breathe. In, out.
Why are we in such a hurry?
We need to get out of this place. Did you get everything?
Yeah, it's all here. But really, you don't look too good. What's wrong, Ash?
I'll be fine. I was in the security room. From the monitors, there was a fucking...
I don't like that. The rest of what I'm about to say dies on my tongue when the elevator stops and the doors open to... There's a moment's pause while we both take in our surroundings. Confusion's understandably there.
Oh, come on! They should just replace this whole thing.
No, I'm quite sure I pressed for the ground floor.
Right? But it's just as Isabella said. The elevator always did have problems when I visited in the past. Often she becomes so angry when we try to get to her floor, and she'll have to repeatedly smash the button for the elevator to even move. That was always good for a laugh. I wasn't too worried then. Now... From the distance, beyond the light's reach, the noise echoes in my ears along with the rapid pounding in my chest. Isabella stiffens and her eyes grow wide at the sound. Gingerly, she reaches up to grab the hem of my sleeve and grips it. Hard, tight enough for her fingernails to dig through. Her eyes search widely for the source of the sound while I stand protectively in front of her.
Ash, did you hear that?
Anyone there? I can
Just hit the
hear you
button
moving
again.
from here. Show yourself.
No response. No response, only the soft sound of something scurrying around the floor, in the walls, in slow, deliberate movements. Faint, though still audible enough in this hush. Until it stops. I don't want to play. A moment.
We need to go, Ash. We have to.
And then... This time, I'm certain it isn't my imagination. Against my training, my whole body freezes. Hands stilling mid-press on the button, eyes growing wide while waiting for any sort of movement from further back, and ears strained for the source of the sound. I can't even offer Isabella any reassurances. Much as I hate to admit it, dread has seeped into every nerve in my body. And the blasted elevator still won't work.
This isn't in my fucking training manual.
Ash, we need to leave. I know that sound. Ash, please, get the elevator.
No! No. Another series of shuffling against the ground, a laughter, and all of a sudden she's just there. Like a twisted spider, she stares at us, a look of hunger in her eyes and venom in the twisted manner she smiles. A glee she is well earned when damn flies I might have dropped right onto the spider's web.
Ashton!
Damn it!
With that warning, she moves, mocking me with each unhurried crawl she takes, knowing I'm at her mercy.
Fucking hell!
Ashton, the door! The door!
Our lives are in the hands of a crummy elevator, literally hanging between life and death. We're not going to die here. Not in a damn elevator. Oh god. Oh shit. Oh no, nope. 7. Oh shit. Okay, let's try this again. 3, 2, 3, 8, 6, 7, 5. 2, 1, 8, 4, 3, 2. Ah, shit! No. 5, 3. 3, 6, 2, 9, 7. Oh, thank God. As if a divine power heard me sprang up a storm in my head, the doors closed just as that thing looms near. Soon the elevator, the blasted thing, is headed up. Isabella's knees buckle in relief. In 2 ticks, she's hugging herself without any care for the mess of papers and folders she had dropped on the floor in her panic. She draws in one ragged bath after another, each one bringing with nothing but relief. And this is the most I've been tired my whole damn life. Not during training, not when my superior first asked me to drop 100, not after a stakeout, but after smashing a fucking elevator button repeatedly. I slump to the ground beside her, worn out, but I don't let myself feel relief again, not until we're out of here. Isabella seems to be of the same mind as she looks at me. Still, I find myself sharing a shaky laugh with her.
We're okay. We're fine. Right?
Yeah, we're good. Alive. Fuck, we should have taken the goddamn stairs.
Twice I've seen it. Thrice if I include the party. Unless I'm tripping balls without realizing it, there's no doubt in my mind that this is actually happening. I don't want to believe it. With the truth staring at me in the face, it'll be stupidity to deny the reality of the matter. As soon as the lift hits the ground floor, we hightail out of the building. Seb's sound asleep when we pass by a station. However, in the face of what we've seen, everything I've faced tonight, we really can't care less who will still see us on our way out. The sooner we get away from this place, the farther the better. I'm just not sure if that also means being safe. She almost got us, damn it. The fucking thing almost had us. Shit, it was only by luck that we managed to get the fucking elevator unstuck, and the blasted thing not worked in the last second. I need some air. Fresh, breathable air that doesn't stink like death and gore all at once. I'm panicking. Christ, losing focus. With another person here, I can't afford that right now. Isabella hasn't said anything, but I know she's more shaken than I am. I can't lose her when another person's depending on me.
Remember your training, Frey.
Another deep breath, and soon I'm starting the engines and driving us off. After that little incident, somewhere open would be good. Someplace I won't get trapped. Okay, awesome. Well, that was scary. Okay, this is, things are really heating up. So, I'm excited to see where this goes. We're getting closer and closer to the end. So, I really hope that you have enjoyed this, as I have been enjoying it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.